Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Ballard,
Here.
and Mr. Sneed.
Here.
Okay, we have five. First item is 2A, meeting minutes from the executive meeting December 13, 2021, and committee of the whole December 13th, 2021. We need a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. We have planning status sheet will be prepared for 124. Committee reports, the only thing we have is nominating committee, and that is Lou. Lou, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to nominate, I guess, one big sweep. I'd like to nominate all the officers to keep their same position.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. And we'll go to the first new business item, which is PC 33-21, Scott Shelton.
Good evening. This is PC 33-21 Scott Shelton, which is being brought before you as a letter of recommendation. It's a request for a change in zoning from NU to R3 for a 3.37 acre tract of land on the east side of Hageman Road, approximately 40 feet south of Studer Lane. As you recall from public hearing, this site is in South County, and there it is outlined in red. On the aerial, you can see the surrounding single-family homes and elementary school, which is directly across Hageman Road. Here's the preliminary plan presented at public hearing. There are 5 proposed lots, each with its own entrance off Hageman Road. Home on proposed lot 1 is already under construction. The petitioner indicated that each lot would have its own rain garden. The planning department is recommending approval of this request. The R3 10,000 square foot residence district is typical within the vicinity surrounding the subject site. The general area is developed with single family residences and the elementary school on Hageman Road across the street from the site. As the petitioner is only requesting a change in zoning and not a special procedure, there are no additional conditions of development to adopt. However, site and access issues would be addressed during the preliminary plat review process. So at this time, I would like to request a motion for this letter of recommendation.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter.
Do we have a second?
This is Sneed. I'll second it.
We have any discussion? Anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. And we'll go to PC 34-21, Stephen P. Link and Kathy M. Yeager.
So this is a request for a conditional use permit in the M1 Industrial District for a 4.34 acre site at the southeast corner of Bell Fountain Road and Hilltop Lane. The site is located in far North County, and you can see it here outlined in red. What you'll also see from the next aerial is that the properties north of the railroad tracks are zoned M1 Industrial District, while the tracks south of the railroad tracks are zoned residentially, while there are residentially developed lots in the M1 along Bell Fountain Road. So the site plan, here's the entire site plan. You can see that it does include a large undeveloped portion to the south, but this is the overall site plan that shows the over 4 acre tract. And then I'll zoom into the detailed parts of the site plan. First, there is an existing single-family residence on this parcel. The petitioner is proposing to split it off onto its own 0.6 acre parcel shown outlined in blue here. The remainder of the tract, 3.72 acres, is where the mechanic shop is, which would be utilized as the vehicle repair facility, as well as an accessory garage. The preliminary plan shows the vehicle repair facility in the existing mechanic shop, as well as 3 employee spaces north of the building and 4 customer spaces, parking spaces west of the building. The drive aisle and the parking are shown on asphalt, but there is a section of gravel shown connecting the front part of the site to the garage. The site plan does not show any proposed lighting or signage, nor any proposed landscaping. So the department is recommending approval with some modifications to the site development plan. We do feel that it would be appropriate to use a dust-proof surface on the parking spaces if the petitioner wishes to propose that, but we would recommend that all of the drive aisles be paved to increase the visual compatibility of the site and also to prevent wheel ruts from forming. We are recommending a 35-foot parking setback shown as the dashed red line from Bell Fountain Road. This is in lieu of the 15-foot parking setback that M1 would require. The reasoning for this is to basically relocate those parking spaces to a different area so they aren't in the road frontage, to also increase the visual compatibility of the site. That space would also need to be developed with a 15-foot wide landscape buffer yard as per the zoning ordinance, which is 1 tree and 4 shrubs for every 20 feet. As I mentioned, there's no lighting proposed, but we have written a condition recommending that any light standards are only 16 feet in height. This is to match the residential standard to sort of soften the character of this use. And while no signage is proposed, we're recommending that any signage in the future would be monument in style. So we are recommending approval. This site has been zoned industrial, M1 industrial district, since the adoption of the zoning ordinance, and a light industrial use has been established at this site. So we feel this proposed use is appropriate. The CUP procedure will allow the commission to impose conditions of development. This will ensure that this use is compatible with the existing residential development across Bell Fountain Road. And as I mentioned, while no signage is proposed, we have drafted the conditional use permit to limit signage to monument style. And we will also require a landscape plan to see that buffer yard along Bell Fountain Road. So we are recommending approval of this request.
Okay, we need a motion.
Make a motion for approval.
Do we have a second? Okay, we don't have a second. I will ask a question. What about outdoor storage of automobiles? Did we address that?
So we wrote that wrecked vehicles can only be stored on the site for a maximum of 72 hours, but they would be permitted in parking spaces as shown on the site plan.
So he would be limited by the number of parking spaces.
Also indicated that the garage to the east, Abby, if you go back to the sort of marked up plan, the garage to the east holds, let me pull up the report, either 2 or 4 cars. I want to say 4, but let me pull it up. Could go inside of that garage.
I think at public hearing, he indicated he wasn't in the habit of keeping cars overnight. We just want to make sure it's not a storage lot down the road.
Sure. So we could write it to say that cars to be worked on have to be stored in that garage, if that's something the commission's interested in.
Yeah, I would think so. There's been others where we've limited outside parking.
This is Bill Sneed. I think that this was probably one of the major concerns at public hearing is the parking. And I think you've done some good things with the buffer and the setback. and also if they can store them in the garage. The number of cars was the other issue. We heard both, they don't store a lot of cars. We also heard that they do store a lot of cars. So if they have designated spots, as this plan shows, to me, they would have to be stored in those spots. And that would certainly limit then the number of parked cars that overnight. Because it's going to be hard to say 72 hours because one car is there, the next car is there. There's no way to keep track of that.
Right.
I don't.
And
So
Bill, I agree with you. I'm going back to that old Shell service station used to be on Dunn Road in Old Halls Ferry. It's the service station. They went to Motormart or something like that now. But he has a bunch of cars up there that's been wrecked, and he's trying to repair them. It's not a service station anymore. We approve
Right.
everything, you know. So who's going to police that? And you're going to have a lot of these places. Well, there's already a bunch of them up here in North County where they just, you know, they call themselves selling cars, but there's stuff just sitting out there.
right,
Lou,
it's
I
my
actually-
understanding that.
Just to not to talk over you there, Bill, but
No, that's all right.
I've driven back there, and it does look like cars are just kind of sitting back there, not being worked on. They may be being worked on, but it's no way to really make sure that they're going to do what we're asking them to do.
Right.
No. And it's kind of if you
one thing we may want to consider is that and it's would entail fencing that area off at the area of the setback with a gated fence, so that in off hour thing, that's all closed up. I think that's when it really probably looks like everyone's gone home and there's cars left all over the place. I mean, during business hours, obviously, they'd have to get in and out of there, so you wouldn't ask them to open and close it. But at night, would certainly shield that whole place and really provide security as well.
So I'm hearing, I think, what are two different or maybe both options, either adding a condition to require vehicles to be serviced to be located in the garage, which he said would hold 4 cars, and or to require a fence, I'm assuming a site-proof sort of fence along the drive to shield the use.
Yes, I'm proposing one or the other. I mean, if we limit them to 4 cars in the garage, that may not serve him as a business owner to only have 4 cars there. From what we've heard, there's times when he has more than that, and that would force him to turn business away. And I don't think we're asking to do that. So the site-proof fence would then allow him to park another 4 or 5 cars in that area behind the fence.
Well, yeah, I don't think we want to give him
the
an
privacy.
uncapped number. I think we need to put some kind of number on it, and if he needs more, then
Sure.
he needs to come back and ask for it.
Okay.
But if you
That's
remember
fine.
that used car lot we did some years back on Union Road, and
Absolutely.
he
Yeah.
was gonna have like 12 or 13 cars, and we go by there and he's got about 40 cars sitting on the lot.
Right.
And Public Works was able to go and clean it up because we did have a number. And I was by there a couple weeks ago, and he's still got it thinned out. So I think you have to give Public Works a number to work off of.
To enforce.
Right.
This has one overhead door, correct, Mel? Does the
Like
building
those.
have one overhead roll-up door? I just want to make sure that, he's got, I think at public hearing, he indicated it was a solo practitioner. He wasn't going to have any employees. So his bays are sort of, so I think the number can be reasonably low to sort of minimize that, at a number at which the commission finds appropriate.
Well, could we do the fences Bill suggested, the limit outdoor storage of say 4 vehicles? And he's got 4 inside the garage, that gives him 8. I'm not sure how much a one-man shop needs.
I think we can definitely, we can put into there a condition that states, no more than 8 vehicles
Mhm.
on the site, 4 of which, may be permitted in the garage, and a site-proof fence to shield the use from Bell Fountain Road. And I would assume that with the way he's got his setup, hopefully we can minimize the amount of fence that would absolutely
Mhm.
require to get that effect.
All
What
right.
kind of fencing you talking about, Jacob?
I would assume that it would be a site-proof fence. At that point, that way you could not see into the site unless the commission wanted to leave it more open and it could be either site-proof or and it would be up to the commission if you did not want chain link. You could state that it could be decorative to ensure that it's visually and aesthetically pleasing along Bell Fountain Road.
Okay.
Well, the vinyl would probably work.
But here, Wayne, I'm getting back to that Dunn Road, Old Hallsbury again. It looks like hell up there, excuse my expression.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to avoid here. What's your thoughts, Bill?
If you ask me to vote for it, I would say no.
Okay. Well, right now we don't have a second, so
Procedurally, Mr. Hilsinger, I believe that probably we need to get a motion, and at which point it would need to probably be voted up or down one way or the other, unless the commissioner wanted to. This is my Robert's rules are not super good.
We could
I
put a
believe
hold
it
on it.
fails if we don't get a second.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
So, or you could put a hold on it if you wanted, as Mr. Sneed was saying, if there was further information that you would like for the department to gather from the petitioner.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, at this time, I would withdraw my motion for approval.
Okay, so now we have no does anyone want to put a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion. This is Bill Sneed to put a and get back with the petitioner and define to them what we discuss and
Okay,
come
we
back
have
to us.
We have a motion to hold. We have a second.
So
Any
since
discussion?
So the Department of Planning will go back to the petitioner with an expectation of bringing a revised plan or a revised report to you at your next meeting, which will be the 24th. In that, when we discuss with the petitioner, we will bring up with him concerns about numbers of vehicles at the site and additional screening in terms of a fence that he would be willing to do, and where those where his vehicles would be stored. Subject to this conversation this evening. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
That's correct. And Jacob, just one thing. He has the mechanic, which I'm sure, pulls cars in there and works on them. So I don't know how many cars he can get in there.
In the shop.
And then
as
he
well.
has this
Mhm.
garage that is another 2 or 4. So I don't think would be difficult for him to agree to keep everything inside.
Mm.
And the other option is not to park anything outside and not have to put a fence up.
Right.
I mean, that it all depends on how many cars he thinks he needs. And we can't answer that.
You may have
But
one
if
car and work
more
on
than
it all
one-
week, Bill. Excuse me for talking over you, but you may have one car and he's doing a motor or something, and he work all week on that thing.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. So,
So now he's got 4 or 5 in queue. So what do you do with them?
Well, I think that the department has enough direction if the commission
Okay.
wishes to vote and hold to bring to you the answers to those questions.
We got a motion for the hold. We got a first and second. All those in favor,
aye,
opposed? Well, I'll vote aye. So we have two, the motion fails.
I had that Mr. Cunningham was on mute. I'm not sure what your vote was, Mr. Cunningham.
I did not vote.
Oh, okay.
Well, we need 5 votes to pass it, and we don't have 5 votes, so.
Okay. Well, that means I'll vote no.
Okay. Any other no's?
I do too. I vote no. I was on
Okay.
mute, so I'm unmuted.
Gary, what about you?
I have previously voted, we're voting on holding it, right?
Yes, yes.
I voted in favor of the hold.
Okay. So it's 3-2, the motion fails. We needed 5, so. I think it's essentially on hold at this point. Is that correct, Mel? Or does it fail altogether?
My
need
understanding of it at
to-
this point, without the commission moving it forward, either to hold it, my understanding of it would be is that it's a failure, and unless it was to be brought back up to the commission,
Okay,
that this has failed
okay.
and deemed
The-
denied.
The petition, the petition is deemed denied on a 3-2 vote. So we will go on to PC 35-21, Eric Scott and Janet Lewis.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is being brought to you as a letter of recommendation this evening. As you recall, PC 35-21, Eric Scott and Janet Lewis is a request for a change in zoning from R3 to R1 for a 3.27 acre tract located on the west side of Acre Lane, approximately 540 feet north of Priggy Road. You can see from the county context map, this site is located in North County, and you can see some of the surrounding uses in the aerial, primarily residential. There is Larimore Park to the north and east of the site, and then as you go further south, past on the other side of Priggy Road is a middle school. We're recommending approval this evening. R1 zoning is appropriate at this site. Our districts are appropriate to be located adjacent to parks. Additionally, the proposed use of a community garden or urban farm would be appropriate, and the tract is large enough to comfortably accommodate such a use. So at this time, I would request a motion for approval.
I make a motion for approval.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Discussion, anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. And we'll go on to PC 37-21, Insight Real Estate Investment Properties.
Yes, as you recall, PC 37-21 Insight Real Estate Investment Properties is a request for a change in zoning from C3 to C8 for a 3.5 acre tract on the southeast quadrant of Lindbergh Boulevard and Boar Park Road. As you recall from public hearing, the site is in South County near the city of Green Park, and there you can see the site outlined in red. On the aerial, you can see the existing commercial development on Lindbergh Boulevard and the residences to the south of the site. This is a map of Lindbergh Boulevard between Tesson Ferry Road and Concord Road. There are currently 12 automobile dealerships along this stretch of Lindbergh, making this an appropriate location for the proposed electric vehicle dealership at the site. Additionally, this would be the only electric vehicle dealership in South County. The closest dealership that is similar to this is currently in the city of Chesterfield. This is the preliminary site development plan presented at public hearing. It shows a proposed parking lot expansion to the south to create an outdoor storage area for inventory and vehicles waiting to be serviced. The petitioner indicated that existing plantings on the western part of the rear property line would be used in place and that new landscaping would be concentrated in the eastern part of the rear buffer yard. Additionally, the existing structure would be used in place with some modification, including a new storefront door added to the Lindbergh facing side and the removal of a bump out on the eastern side of the building. New overhead roll-up doors added for service center entry and exit, and the ceiling of the southern portion of the building to be raised to a height of 17 feet, which would match the northern part of the building. After a public hearing, the petitioner submitted a revised preliminary site development plan in response to resident concerns. One of the additions on this plan is 8-foot high vinyl board-on-board fencing around the rear portion of the site that is proposed for outdoor storage. This fence addresses the residents' concerns about security and privacy. Additionally, the petitioner has added permeable pavers on the east and south parts of the site to provide better stormwater management. Finally, the petitioner indicated plans to remove the existing plantings along the south property line and instead shows an expanded rear buffer yard on the revised plans. The department is concerned about the amount of landscaping at the site and ways to screen the site from the abutting residential properties. So we are recommending landscaping be installed on both Lindbergh Boulevard and Boar Park Road as outlined in the zoning ordinance. We recommend that the rear buffer yard be increased to 30 feet wide with 4 trees and 4 shrubs per 20 linear feet. To reduce the potential for disruptive lighting, new light standards south of the structure shall not exceed 16 feet in height. And illumination levels shall be 0.0 foot candles 20 feet north of the south property line. Finally, loudspeakers can create a nuisance for nearby residents and shall not be used at the site. This is a close-up of our landscaping recommendation for the rear property line. We're suggesting a 30-foot wide buffer yard for increased privacy and to also give the plants room to grow. This would reduce the number of parks by 4 spaces. The requirement of 4 trees and 4 shrubs per 20 linear feet would call for 65 trees and 65 shrubs total. And the department finds that this dense landscaping combined with the site-proof fence proposed by the petitioner will provide significant privacy for residents. Additionally, this is a view of that existing Marshall home sign that is on the property. The department feels that the existing sign is similar in style to the sign for a new car wash next door and that it could be refaced and used in place. However, if new signage is proposed, it should be monument in style. So the department is recommending approval. We find that commercial zoning is reasonable and in keeping with the surrounding land use and development pattern. The C8 planned commercial district offers the county and community maximum input in the site design and how the requested uses interact with adjoining properties. As shown on the map shown previously, vehicle sales, rental, and leasing is a common land use on both sides of Lindbergh Boulevard between Tesson Ferry and Concord Road. And this development, there is an existing car-centric node at the southeast corner of Tesson Ferry Road and Lindbergh Boulevard, which includes an automobile dealership and the car wash that is next door to this site. And this development would provide a new opportunity to purchase electric vehicles in South County. Electric vehicles do represent a growing share of new vehicle sales and are an important technology to reduce CO2 emissions. The department is recommending some specific conditions of development, which include a expanded rear buffer yard planted with 4 trees and 4 shrubs per 20 linear feet, additional landscaping along Lindbergh Boulevard and Boar Park Road. We're recommending that illumination levels be 0.0 foot candles 20 feet north of the south property line. And we find that the existing sign can be refaced and used in place. Additionally, we're calling that architectural review will be required.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any kind of motion?
I'd like to make a motion for a hold, and I would like to explain why, if we can get that seconded.
Go ahead, Bill.
I second it, Bill.
Okay, we have a first and second for a hold.
Do we?
Yes, I second it.
Yeah, Bill
Oh,
second.
okay, Bill. Okay, thank you. I think there's a lot of information that we asked for at public hearing that the results or the responses we had gotten from the petitioner really had not answered many of those. And I am concerned about what we're doing here and how that relates to what's been done in the past. And if it's a good thing, we'd like to do it here. If it's a bad thing, obviously we don't. And one of the things would be needed for information is as we go down that corridor, most of the car dealerships do in fact butt up against residential. I would like to suggest that we get the information of what is the greatest distance, what is the shortest distance between development and residential, and obviously an average to see what we're asking for here. I think your suggestion to make a 30-foot buffer sounds good. I just would like to know what that really means in terms of what's been done in the past or what we probably should be doing in the future. The type of buffer you're suggesting look much better than what was there before. And the other thing is the amount of renovation to the building on the exterior and the parking lot. To my remembrance of the public hearing, it sounded as though they were going to reuse a lot of the parking lot asphalt, and I drove over there, and a great deal of it is cracked and needs replacement or refurbishing. The building itself, they said they would paint it. If this is a first-class car dealership, By the way, we don't really know who's going in there. We would like to know that. But if this is a first-class car dealership, it would seem to me that they would have plans as to how they're going to uh, modify and renovate that building. So for those reasons, I would like to have that kind of information before I could support it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Also, wasn't there quite a bit of water issues on this site?
Yes.
And when I see the word permeable pavers, that just leads me to believe that we're asking for more water to go into the ground. And if there's already a groundwater problem,
Do we have any comments from MSD on this?
Yes, so the report does have comments from MSD. This site will be required to adhere to all MSD's standards. So the use of permeable pavers is in general one of a buffet of options for BMPs that a petitioner can use to encourage infiltration of water into the ground soil immediately beneath it. Because otherwise, if it was impermeable, all that water would then sheet off. And as the commission well knows at this point, would sheet off and would create a flow issue and exacerbate other issues. So the permeable pavers are one of a buffet of options that the petitioner may use to encourage infiltration immediately onto the site. So what I'm hearing from the commission is it would like for the department to go back, look at some of these existing dealerships, come up with providing you a little bit more information about what's the largest, the smallest, and an average distance that these buffers from adjoining residential uses are. I hear concerns about the pavement of the quality of the pavement in the parking lot. It's my recollection that they are going to repave and resurface the entire parking lot. Additionally, they are showing the addition of landscaped islands throughout the parking lot, but we can get have the petitioner submit a letter directly to the commission stating that directly and clearly to you, and a request for more in-depth, what it is that how MSD is going to be treating this use, as well as looking for further explanation as to the renovation of the building. We can ask for either a verbal or a written report to the commission explaining it a little bit more in depth. And we can, if the petitioner has created additional architectural renderings of any sort, we can ask for those to be presented to you at your next meeting or the next meeting at which these documents can be prepared. Does that encapsulate the concerns of the commission?
Well, we also need to know who the tenant's going to be.
So you are requesting that the tenant be named?
Yes.
Wayne, didn't we ask him that question? I recall him saying.
That was asked multiple times, and we have a letter from Councilman Tracus, who brought up the same issue, that the petitioner was unwilling to tell us who was going to occupy the building.
Mhm.
Normally, surprises don't work in our favor.
Right. I do recall him saying he was going to pave the lot, though, when we asked him that question. But yeah, he refused. And so to me, it sounds like it's going to be a second-class facility there.
Well, that's kind of what you have to assume if you don't know anything different.
Right.
So, anything else we need to add?
I think that.
Seeing none, we have a motion to hold. We have a first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. And we'll go to letters for approval. First one's PC 28-21, JAMA West Properties.
Yes, this is PC 28-21 JAMA West Properties LLC coming before you as a letter of recommendation. As you recall, this is a request for a change in zoning from M3, FPM3, NU, FP, and FPNU to C8 and FPC8 for a 6.19 acre tract of land on the south side of Manchester Road, approximately 260 feet west of Dietrich Road. As you
Go ahead.
Okay. As you recall, this site is in West County, and you can see it there outlined in red. Subsequent to your approval of this petition, the petitioner submitted a new site development plan in response to the request to reduce the number of entrances on the site from 3 to 1. The revised site development plan shows two 39-foot wide commercial entrances. 2 entrances are necessary at the site to allow for large vehicle haulers to enter and exit safely without having to back onto Manchester Road. So we are recommending approval of this letter of recommendation, as this revised plan is in line with the Commission's overall goal to reduce the number of curb cuts on Manchester Road.
Okay, thank you. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
We have a second. Anyone?
I second it.
Okay, we have a first and second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. And next item is PC 33-21, Scott Shelton.
We did that one as an in new
That was
business,
part of that?
and 35 as well. So we're on to correspondence now.
Okay, all right, we'll go to 9A, which is PC 08-15.
This is PC 08-15, Semsad and Safika Sakinovich. It is a request for an amendment to M3 Ordinance 26201 for a 9.96 acre tract of land on the south side of Baumgartner Road, west of Baumgartner Industrial Drive. This site is in far South County. There you can see the site outlined in red. As you can see from the aerial, there is mostly industrial development surrounding the site. The site is also bordered by Merrimack River to the south. This is the site plan that is currently under review. The M3 ordinance calls for all drive aisles and parking areas to be paved. The petitioner's request is to allow an alternative dustproof material on all drive aisles and parking areas. The department is recommending a partial approval. The Board of Zoning Adjustment has previously granted a variance to allow dustproof material on this site 3 different times. We feel that amending the ordinance is more appropriate because Board of Zoning Adjustment variances are only valid for 6 months. The department finds that a dustproof alternative material is appropriate on the truck parking area, but not on the drive aisles or vehicle parking areas. Drive aisles and vehicle parking areas receive heavier use, which warrants paving to prevent any kind of rutting at the site. We're also recommending that internal curbing shall be added to the parking area to control the spreading of dustproof materials beyond the intended area.
Do we have a motion of any kind?
Can a petitioner just explain just a little bit more in detail what exactly is a dust-proof material?
So the county has a list of approved dustproof surfaces that the county would choose from. So the Department of Planning and the Department of Transportation And it's usually pea gravel. A lot of it's mined out of the Merrimack River. It can't be crushed limestone. It can't be a material that's going to throw up a lot of dust. So there are already several that they would choose from that have already been approved by the Department of Transportation and Planning, and they would have to choose from one of those pre-approved types of surfaces.
Okay,
I
so it
think we
is.
said no to this back in, 2015, 2016? And
That
that's
is
when the petitioner tried to go around us.
So it is correct. I believe that the history of this petition is that originally the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this request through various processes. It was ultimately approved by the County Council creating this use. The site has had multiple site plans approved for it. However, it has never been constructed and utilized. So they are coming back. There's another site development plan under review. They requested this right to use dust-proof alternative surfaces in lieu of full paving, and the department took their request and made our recommendation for it, at minimum making the drive aisles and the vehicle parking areas paved while permitting the area where the trucks would be to use that alternative dust-proof surface.
They have a for sale sign. They've had one for quite a while on this property. And there has been some trucks parked there without.
If trucks have been parked there, I don't believe that, because while they have a site development plan that the commission ultimately approved and has been recorded, they've never pulled their permits and gained occupancy for the site under their permitted uses. So trucks that have been parked there would be inappropriately parked until a site plan is approved and they ultimately get it constructed.
Yeah,
But they didn't want to. They didn't want to follow the site plan that was approved.
Correct. They've revised it. They revised it, and they have come back and had it reviewed a couple times. So now they're coming back to have it reviewed again. That would be different from what the commission approved. And ultimately, what would happen is, if the commission did recommend approval of this evening, it would come back to you whenever the site plan was ready. It would come back to you again for approval in front of you before it would be, receive its final approval.
Okay, Jacob. This is Bill. Could you clarify what the Board of Zoning Adjustments approved, different than what we had approved?
Sure. So the Board of
council
Zoning
approved?
And the Board of Zoning Adjustment has, I don't have the dates, but they have done it 3 previous times in the past. This petitioner has gone in front of the Board of Zoning Adjustment and requested relief from the paving requirement of the C8 ordinance to permit a dust-proof surface. And the Board of Zoning Adjustment has provided that variance in the past. They currently have no variances at the site. The site is not. They have no variances because variances only last for 6 months, and they've never followed through with anything that they have proposed.
Can you tell me why you think they approved it?
To be honest, I would have to go back to the minutes of those BZA meetings and pull those minutes out to see what hardship, because as the Board of Zoning Adjustment operates, there should be a demonstrable hardship for someone when they receive a variance, and it should not be based in economic use. It should be based on a specific land use issue. So I would need to go back to the minutes to see whether there was what their hardship was.
So you know that they had the opportunity to use this dust-proof materials 3 different times approved by the Board of Zoning, right?
Correct.
They've
But they
never
have to
used it.
have.
They've never
They have to
used
have
it.
we have the right on the site plan,
Right.
which would supersede the BZA, allowing them the dust-proof material.
So the way that the Board of Zoning Adjustments would work is that after the commission approves a site development plan, the Board of Zoning Adjustment is given some latitude to grant certain variances through the permitting process, and they have provided that subsequent to the board or to the commission's granting granting approval of that site development plan. But they've got a whole new one under review now, and they were requesting this change so that they would never have to go back to the Board of Zoning Adjustment again. and, you know,
And I
clean
think
up
we
the ordinance.
should resolve it so they don't have to go back to the board. I understand that. But for clarity, they've never put down even dust-proof materials. They haven't done anything. And there have
Correct.
been parking trucks there ever since 2015, okay? And they moved some dirt around, and they drive the trucks around and they let them sit there in the middle of the field. So that, you know, just so the board of zoning understands that they haven't been playing very fair with it. Okay. The second thing is the amending the what we're asking to do, because I thought that we approved paving on the drive lanes and parking lanes, and we did approve, I thought, dust-proof material all in the rest of the areas. Is that true or not? Am I forgetting something?
I believe that it was showing paving throughout the entirety of the site of the entire. I don't believe that it
Can we
showed
check on that,
dust-proof.
please? Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Um,
because I mean, we don't need to do that now, but I'm just saying, my memory serves me right, which it doesn't always. I would, I think we kind of looked at that option and considered that. Because, you know, that's where they need paving, and we don't want to move off of that target at all.
So Mel was able to actually pull up the BZA minutes from the most recent variance that was granted.
It's actually the first, Jacob.
Oh, is it the first one?
The other times they indicate the expiration as the
as the rationale,
rationale.
basically as an extension.
Correct.
So their rationale at the time was a motion to approve the requested variance, noting other alternative dust-free surfaces are in the area, and that the heavy trucks would be parking at this location could cause damage to asphalt or concrete. Ms. Herman seconded and Mr. Douglas concurred. Those are from the minutes from why the variance was granted.
Didn't we initially turn this down?
That is correct. It was the initial, it was the recommendation of the Planning Commission to deny this request.
And then they went around us.
The County Council did ultimately approve a ordinance
An
for this
M3.
thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you saying, see if I understand this correctly, are you saying that the trucks would do damage on concrete?
That is the rationale that that was taken at the Board of Zoning Adjustment when they granted that variance. That was their rationale at the time.
Any trucking hub or any delivery dock, they all have concrete for parking of the trucks. So they must be doing it incorrectly. We all know that the concrete is the way to construct parking for trucks, especially when they unload it off the tractor. So I would disagree with that. It would seem to me that ideal situation would be that it's all paved, but if not, certainly the parking and the drive lanes should be paved.
I see no reason to change our prior approval.
Then I think it is, if that is the will of the commission, the department is I think we're very comfortable with the commission making that decision. We would inform the petitioner that the commission did not recommend, will not be recommending this change to the ordinance. And we would be comfortable, letting them know that the commission continues and will reiterate its expectation of paving of the full site.
So Jacob, can they still do what they did before?
So they
Go
will
over
have
this again?
they will have to go back to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. They would have to go back in front of the Board of Zoning Adjustment again. What I would say is that in the time period since this variance was granted several years ago. Between then and now, this department has become much more proactive in how it explains variances to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And as part of our information, we give them an information sheet about a lot of their variances, a lot of their more controversial ones. And we would note that this failed at the Planning Commission. If that were the will of the commission, we would note that it failed at the Planning Commission, and that the commission continues to find that full paving is appropriate at the site.
What's
Okay,
our track record with those guys? Is it pretty good? When we deny and they go around us like this guy did?
The Board of Zoning Adjustment is an independent body that makes determinations, based on the information that both the department and that petitioners provide to them. I can't, in a similar vein that when individuals ask me what will the Planning Commission do, I say it's an independent body that makes decisions of its own. And I think this evening's meeting is a, a proof of that in many ways. They are also an independent body, but it would be very proactive to ensure that the Board of Zoning Adjustment did understand that the commission has heard this multiple times and continues to reiterate its expectation of pavement at the site. Whether
Wayne,
that would
unless my
change
memory
now.
serves me incorrectly or correctly, I don't know which way, but I don't recall hearing one like this before. How about you?
no, this is a rare one. But I think they thought they could go around us and, we have site review on it. So I don't think they anticipated that. But I see no reason to change it at this point.
On the Board of Zoning Adjustment, a variance is only valid for 6 months. So what happens at the end of 6 months?
It expires. So
And
you
then
have to have pulled your permits within that 6-month period. If you've not pulled your permits, then you have to come back again and get another variance for the same use. But once you've pulled your permits, it gives you the right to construct it as per all the documents that get you your building permits.
Okay, so as long as they act within the 6 months, then it's a forever deal?
Well, the variance would be it in essence gives you the ability to pull the permits, which give you that variance from the zoning ordinance. But because it expires after 6 months,
Okay.
if someone wanted to come back and establish a similar or same use at the site, they would have to then re-request another variance in front of the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So these variances, that's why the Board of Zoning Adjustment typically will see people want to put a deck in the exact same location. You have to come back for a variance to that every single time that you do work to your deck. It doesn't carry on into perpetuity.
Okay, on the Board of Zoning Adjustments, what background do they have in material use? Because I can tell you, I've installed parking lots, most notably the UPS facility up in North County, and I can tell you now that that's 1 foot thick concrete with reinforced. And it's not asphalt, it's not every place. Go down to the postal service, all the government facilities. I mean, it's almost like they're not, I don't know if you want to say professionals or engineers or whatever, to even insist that pea gravel is gonna hold up better than concrete is crazy.
To the makeup of the Board of Zoning Adjustment in its current form, the newest member, he was not a member when this variance was granted. He's an urban planner who's been on the board for a year, maybe a little bit longer. But the two other members are longtime members. One of whom she is a retiree. The other one she works in the nonprofit sector. So they have various experiences, but perhaps not related
In the
to
construction,
building materials, correct?
I mean, this all relates to the construction of a parking lot
In this
or of a
variance, yes.
roadway. Yeah. I agree with Wayne. Do we need to make a motion or what do we need?
Yeah,
to
we
do?
need a motion. Gary, you want to make one?
I'll make a motion that we proceed as you described, that we tell them that we're not changing.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. We have a second.
I'll second it, Bill.
Discussion, anyone?
So this
All
department
those
will rewrite your correspondence to reflecting a denial and maintaining the current the existing ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion for denial first and second. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Ayes have it 5-0. And we have 9B, which is response to council order dated 12/21/21, PC 29-21, K2M properties.
Good evening. As Commissioner Hilsinger mentioned, the Planning Commission is in receipt of a communication from County Councilman Tim Fitch requesting conditions of development for PC 2921 and clarification as to why car sales is an inappropriate use along the north side of Manchester Road, specifically when car sales exist across the street. As you will recall, PC 2921 K2M Properties LLC was a request for a change in zoning from M3 and FPM3 to C8 and FPC8 for a 3.63 acre tract located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Manchester Road and Consort Drive. You can see from the county context map, this site is located in West County along the heavily retail-oriented commercial corridor of Manchester Road. As you can see in the aerial, there's a larger view of the aerial that provides some more of the surrounding context. You can see the site that is outlined in red, sort of triangular in shape, just north of Manchester Road. And then the area that is outlined in a hash red line is Regency Park, which is an intentionally planned business and industrial park that was permitted via PC 12672. At the public hearing, the petitioner indicated that no improvements to the site were proposed and that their business would occupy a single tenant space within the existing mixed tenant office building. They indicated the specific space is the one that's encircled in blue. They also indicated that a minimal staff presence would be on site specifically to show and test drive vehicles, and that any sales of the vehicles would occur off-site. The box surrounding the parking on the Manchester Road frontage is where they are proposing to store vehicles for their business. In your recommendation of denial, the commission found that the proposed use and the proposed site design were incompatible with the existing uses on site, as well as within the larger overall planned industrial district, and the development pattern did not align with the development pattern on the north side of Manchester Road in this area. As mentioned, the subject site is part of a long-established business and industrial park that is developed with several office and light industrial buildings. The site itself is developed with a mixed tenant office building, which is currently occupied by both general office and medical office uses. Concerns were noted that permitting vehicle inventory storage at this site would present several problems, including the fact that vehicle inventory storage is a land-intensive use and requires an extensive parking area. Permitting vehicle inventory storage would fundamentally alter the visual perception of the site to be a car dealership rather than a mixed tenant office building. Additionally, any conditions of development that would limit the number of inventory on site would be, extremely difficult to enforce. An inspector, that's responding to a complaint would, have difficulty in determining which vehicles on the site are affiliated with an off-site car sales business, meaning the vehicle inventory storage, and then which vehicles belong to either employees or customers of that business or employees and customers of the other businesses on site. Additionally, it would be equally difficult to enforce the permitted uses at this site, as sales, rental, or leasing of vehicles is not permitted per the petitioner's statement of how they would be using the site as vehicle inventory storage. In this area of unincorporated St. Louis County, along Manchester Road, roughly bounded to the east by Bear Station Road, which is essentially the DePere city limits, and State Highway 141 to the west. All car sales and vehicle inventory storage can be found on the south side of Manchester Road. All of those uses are on individual lots, where the car sales and or vehicle inventory storage is the sole use on that parcel. The department finds that it is inappropriate to introduce a new use on the north side of Manchester Road that is incompatible with both the other uses on this specific site within the existing building and within the overall planned industrial district that this site is a part of. Per the councilman's request, the department has prepared conditions of development for this site. Changes to the site design would include landscaping along the Manchester Road frontage, additionally around the existing billboard in the site which is in the southeast corner. Additionally, vehicle inventory storage would be located at the rear of the site, north of the existing building indicated by the blue boxes. So at this time, the department is recommending that the commission reiterate its recommendation of denial and also forward on to the councilman the requested conditions of development. So it asks for a motion of denial at this time.
Do we have a motion? Anyone?
Mr. Elliott, you're muted.
I make a motion to deny.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Quick question. If we would allow this kind of usage on a property such as this, would we not be opening ourselves up to allowing this at other sites as well?
I think that was one of our key arguments, and one of the key arguments that the commission proffered in its recommendation is that this is as a use, it's not typically a use that you would find in a planned industrial sort of park like this, and that it does sort of lead itself to if at this site, why not at others? And I think that was one of the key one of the important points that the commission put forward, and the department also additionally finds when wanting to expand this type of use to a site. We've not typically seen vehicle inventory storage at a site such as this, and additionally to state that it's merely inventory and test drives and not sales occurring at the site would be really very difficult for the county to enforce. And it would be a very quick and easy sort of thing to see a petitioner engage in sales at the site, and not because the dealership is a small drive away from this site.
Right.
So it's hard to imagine an easy enforcement of the conditions.
Okay. We have a motion to reiterate the previous recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Do we have anybody opposed? Okay, ayes have it 5-0. Site plans, do we have any site plans?
We have no site
site
plans
plans.
tonight.
Anything good?
Just this public hearing coming up.
And that will occur in 2 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I
We have a
second.
second.
I second it, Bill.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it 5-0, and we are adjourned. And we'll see you back in 2 minutes.